Hello everyone, my name is Dee and welcome to Books and Quirks. Today I'm just going to do a quick wrap up and tell you about the two books that I finished last week. It was again another slow kind of reading week for me, or at least from what I used to. I've been working a lot lately, a lot of extra hours in addition to the 40 that I already work. So it's been a little bit hard and tiring for me this past week. But I did get through two books. And I'm really happy with them, and I'll tell you about them now. Okay, so the first book that I finished last week is Before the Fall by Noah Hawley. This is a library copy that I got, and I had heard Shelleen from Shelleen Toland, I'll link her channel, talk about this book, and it sounded kind of interesting. So the premise is that it's about a man who happens to be on a private jet with, a billionaire's family. He is friends with the billionaire's wife, and she invites him to come along on their private plane because they happen to be going to the same destination. And the next thing he knows, he's floating around in the ocean. The plane has crashed into the ocean. He's floating around amongst a lot of debris, and come to find out that he and the youngest son of the billionaire and his wife are the only survivors. And he helps the boy and swims to shore. So the entire book follows the present time, which is, the aftermath of the crash, and the things that goes on with Scott and Scott's, and the billionaire's, family and the little boy, and it also goes back in time and speaks to the lives of the different passengers that were aboard the plane. And there were only, on the plane was the billionaire and his wife, another couple, another rich, very rich couple, and the two children of the billionaire and his wife. I can't remember for the life of me what their names were. And also Scott. He was the only kind of, regular guy on the plane. But it also follows the pilot and the co-pilot and the stewardess in the backstory. So that's basically all I can tell you without spoiling it. What I will say for this book is I really loved the first 100 pages of this book, and I really loved the last 50 pages of this book. The middle of this book, I have to be honest, I did get a little bit bored. I didn't really enjoy some of the information given for some of these other passengers, and it really wasn't relevant to the story at all. If all of that had been left out, it would have still been a good book, and it wouldn't have taken away from the conclusion. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, just because when I got to the middle of the book after the first 100 pages, and this book is not very long, it's 400, I think, or 390 pages, so it's not very long at all. But through the whole middle, I didn't really have a desire to pick it up, and it just may have been because of my work week and I was so tired anyway, but I just kind of had to force myself to read through the middle part. And like I said, I really did enjoy the ending and the conclusion, so I don't know. You can decide for yourself. I got this off the library, so I didn't buy it myself. And I did enjoy it. It's just that a lot of the middle kept dragging for me. The next book that I finished this past week was The Thousandth Floor by Katherine McGee. I loved this book. This book takes place in a future New York City, so it takes place in the year 2118, and in this futuristic New York City, 100 years from now, it's kind of the entire landscape of New York City has been taken over by this tower that has 1,000 floors. So, if you think, the old World Trade Centers were big, those only had 109 floors, I think. So you can imagine what 1,000 floor building, I mean, it just goes endlessly into the sky. So when I first picked this book up, I thought it was a standalone. I thought it was just a standalone, um, kind of thriller, sci-fi type of book. But it's actually part of a trilogy, and I'm so glad it is, because when I finished this book, I still thought it was a standalone. And when I finished this book, I was like, oh no, another really open ending. I said, I can't handle this. But then I looked it up online, and I did see that it's only the first book in a trilogy, because there's so much left open at the end. And it is exciting. So when the book opens up in the first 2 pages in the prologue, you learn that a girl was falling from the building, from the top floor of the building to her death, obviously. And so the entire book is building up to that. So you learn about you get a lot of POVs in this book. You get the main person, I guess, is Avery. Avery lives in the penthouse, so she lives on the 1,000th floor. Very, very wealthy. Everyone that lives in the upper floors, like the upper, I guess, the upper half of the building are the rich folks. The lower you are, the poorer you are. So those that are on the lower floors, the first 100 or 200 floors, are very, very poor. And they are the ones that are kind of like, just making ends meet with their, living paycheck to paycheck, doing kind of service jobs, and they're down on their luck, basically. So it follows some characters that are on the lower floors, and it follows some characters that are on the upper floors, and it's really interesting. I found this book to be so cool because the building is like the size of, it takes up most of the city. So each floor is, blocks and blocks long, and there is everything that you need to live on is in the building. So there are restaurants, there are clubs, there are spas. They even remade Central Park on one of the floors in the building. So like everything that you love about New York City, everything that you want to New York City is there. It's just now inside the building. So it's really interesting, trying to picture everything in my head as I was reading it. It was really fun, and I loved it. It is a suspenseful novel because you learn, like I said, from the first 2 pages what's going to happen, but you don't know who it is that fell. So I don't know, I enjoyed it so much, and at the end you do learn who fell. I won't give any spoilers, don't worry, but there are a lot of other things that are left wide open, and so much room for the second novel. I have to wait another year for the second novel to come out because this is just a new release. It just came out like last month. So I'm really excited. I loved it. I probably will reread it next year before the second book comes out because I probably will have forgotten by then what happens. But I really love this book. So that is all. Those are the 2 books that I read. I'm still working on Trigger Warnings. I'm now 2/3 of the way into that book, the short stories by Neil Gaiman. So that probably will be in my wrap up next week. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the 1,000th Floor and Before the Fall. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. And have a good one, everybody. Bye.